Hi comic book fans, and welcome to another suddenlycomics.com video. And today is another in my series about Bronze Age horror, and we're going to be looking at one of the iconic series. Ran for 12 years from 1971 to 1983. Now originally when I was decided to collect Bronze Age horror, this title was not on my list because this is Weird War Tales and I don't really collect war comics. However, when I started looking at some of the covers on the Weird War Tales, I decided I was going to include it into my collection of Bronze Age horror. And indeed, some of the stories are excellent as well. So we've got great artwork, great stories in Weird War Tales. We get 124 issues over the 12 years. It sort of switches between being monthly and bi-monthly a couple of times. So that's why we don't have 12 times 12 issues. We get a sort of 4 or 5 different editors. Start off with Joe Kubert, switch to Joe Orlando, then we get Paul Levitz, then we get Len Wein for a small period of time, Mike Barr, and finally Nelson Bridwell. Right, okay, so there's a bit of a history. Let's have a look at some of them. So as I said, here we go, issue 1 of Weird War Tales. Very appropriately, the cover is by Joe Kubert. Okay, now Joe Kubert is the main cover artist on Weird War Tales. I haven't counted them, but I suspect he's done about 60 to 70% of the covers on Weird War Tales, and I'm not complaining. What a great artist Joe Kubert is. His favourite subject, well, he did loads and loads of war comic covers, so Weird War Tales plays right up his street. And indeed, in the first 7 issues, of Weird War Tales are reprints. And Joe Kubert edits the reprint issues, so he is cover artist and editor here on issue 1. And as I said, I have the last issue here as well. I like to show the bookends. There is the last issue 124 from 1983. Now, 124 issues of Weird War Tales. I don't want to put all those into one video. It's too much to take in at one time. Well, it would be for me anyway. A limited capacity, limited attention span. So I'm going to split this into 2 halves. This half, we're going to talk about the first half of Weird War Tales, and in the second video, I'll talk about the second half. Right, and what I've done here is I'm just not showing you all the covers. Of the 124 issues, I've probably got 70, 80 of them. What I'm going to do is pick out some issues, special issues, where I really like the cover. They are key issues, or I like the stories, okay? Because we are going to talk a bit about the writers in this as well, because there are some great writers writing on Weird War Tales. Right, so I showed you issue 1. Here is issue 6. Of Weird War Tales. This is really nice. One of the things I do like about Weird War Tales is the trade dress, which comes across particularly well here with this red. And in the sort of Weird War, these sort of little skeletons and bones and things, very effective. And here we have a soldier who is a robot. Is this GI robot? Well, is a sort of prototype GI robot. I don't think it's actually him, but I think it is a prototype, and there's a couple of stories in here about robots in the military. So that is Weird War Tales number 6. Now, when we get to issue 8, Joe Kubert stops doing the editing. It is picked up by the Bronze Age horror editor, Joe Orlando. What a cracking job he did of editing Bronze Age horror comics. His main title, of course, was House of Mystery, but he does have a bit of a run here on Weird War Tales, and then he sort of joins up with Paul Levitz. Joe Orlando sort of becomes editor-in-chief, and the actual guy doing the editing becomes Paul Levitz, right through, I think, to sort of around about issue 90. when Len Wein does a short spell, Mike Barr does a short spell. So here we go. Weird War Tales number 8, and this cover is, I think this is the only Neil Adams cover on Weird War Tales. Think so. I could be wrong. It's the only one I've got. Right, so here we go. Really nice one. Number 8. It becomes a new material, and Joe Orlando picks up the editing. Next up, this is a bit of a special issue. This is a special for a couple of reasons. I'm going to take it out of its bag. First of all, the cover on this is by the great Nick Cardy. Now, like Neil Adams, Nick Cardy is a very prolific Bronze Age horror artist. Lots of covers on lots of Bronze Age horror. Now, this is one of the very few Nick Cardy covers on Weird War Tales. He doesn't do a lot of covers on Weird War Tales, but here he is in an early issue, number 10. But that is not the most special thing about this issue. What is special about this issue? Well, it is this little story here. This is called Cyrano's Army, and the artist here, anybody guess? It's Walt Simonson. This, there you go, that is Walt Simonson's first published work. Yeah, the great Walt Simonson, first published work is in this comic here, Weird War number 10, I think from 72 or 73. Seek this one out. It is a bit of a key Nick Cardy cover, first published work by Walt Simonson. Now this next one is, for me, it's the cover, and this is one of my favourite covers on Weird War Tales. It's one of the covers that sort of attracted me to this this run. Look at this, it is absolute stunner. And the artist here is a great artist called George Evans, who was particularly keen on doing aircraft, World War II, World War I aircraft covers, and he sort of did detailed drawings of aircraft as well. But here we are, he's doing a great, look at the detail on this cover. Fantastic cover by George Evans on Weird War Tales number 18. And if at some stage I'm going to do my top 10 Bronze Age horror covers. This will be really tricky, but I think that one will be in contention for getting into my top 10. Next up, and this one's going to be probably up there as well, this is by the great Louis Dominguez, and we've got a war artist painting a scene, and he is in turn being painted by a character I presume is Death, who is painting the war artist as a skeleton, perhaps a premonition of what is to come. Another fantastic cover. And we're going to go 3 great covers in a row here. This is Weird War Tales number 38, and it is the great Joe Kubert. He does a load of the covers on these, but this is probably one of my favourite Joe Kubert covers on this run. A really great, I love the whole colouring, the shading, the composition, just fantastic. Right, next up, now this next one's interesting. Can you guess the artist on this? Well, I'll be very surprised if you do. It's actually a combination of 2 artists. The artist who drew the original cover art, and then it was adapted by someone. We do find out the secret of this in the letters page. I've opened this up. We're going to have a look at the letters page, because that does tell us who the artist is, well, who both the artists are. So in the letters page, here we go. There's the letters page. There's a lot of moaning about the fact that Weird War Tales has gone bi-monthly. It says here, our abridged letters column doesn't allow for another letter. But we'd like to say a brief word about this issue's cover. Artist Leopoldo Duranona made his Weird War Tales debut illustrating issue 37's The Three Wars of Don Q. And this issue he's made cover billing. So the cover is by Leopoldo Duranona. But the unusual wash effect is courtesy of editor Joe Orlando, who abandoned his editor's desk for a drawing board long enough to add the eerie tones. So there you go, Leopoldo Duranona with alterations by Joe Orlando. So Joe Orlando's done this sort of grey background here. He sort of washed it out, made the cover much more striking, I think. So there we go, quite an interesting cover there. I think that is the only cover by Leopoldo Duranona. Certainly the only one where Joe Orlando has done a wash effect on the background. This one is a cover. It's another Joe Kubert cover. This time we've got skeleton riding a sort of dragon creature. Like that one. This next one I picked out because it's got a different cover artist again. This artist here is Gray Morrow. Gray Morrow, great horror artist, known for doing the Archie comics, the Archie horror comics. But anyway, here he is doing a cover on Weird War Tales. This next one, I just like the cover. We've got a motorcycling Nazi skeleton that has detached its head from its body and is flying fireball like a soldier. Stunning cover. Right, this next one, this is a great Joe Kubert cover again, and we have got Hitler being reanimated. So any comic with Hitler on it worth double the amount of anything else. So that's a nice little pickup on Weird War Tales 58. We've got a Hitler cover. This next one, cover doesn't do a lot for me, but inside, well, let's start talking a bit about some of the writers. There's a lovely story in here, which I really enjoyed. Here we go. It's called Death God. Okay. It is by one of the guys who writes a lot of the stories here in Weird War Tales. A really great writer called Bob Kaniger. The artwork on this particular story is actually by Russ Heath. Okay, now there's a great story here. So we are in, from the cities of Ur and Uruk in ancient Babylon, the soldiers had marched forth. Every foe had fallen before their wild hearts and slashing blades. But now they gibbered in nameless fear as night suddenly turned into blinding day over their encampment. So we're in Babylon, and a flying saucer appears and basically incinerates the Babylonian army. Not good news. Next up, we have got the Babylonian... wait a minute. Soon in the courtyard of the great pharaoh Amenhotep III in Lower Egypt, we have got the fleet here of Amenhotep III, which again is decimated by this flying saucer. The armies around that area are being basically destroyed by this alien in a flying saucer. So what they decide to do is they realise they've got no chance against this thing, so they offer up a maiden as a sacrifice to this god. And here we see the UFO lands, and a sort of large robot type creature gets out and grabs the female sacrifice, but then a man from the tribe comes out with a slingshot, and he takes his slingshot and fires a stone at the huge robot, hits it in its control center, disables it, and it falls over. And what is the name of this tribesman? It's David, of course. I thought you might have guessed it. It's a sort of retelling of the biblical story of David and Goliath, where Goliath is a large alien robot. Fantastic stuff. These are the type of stories you get in Weird War Tales. Little crackers. Fantastic. That's in Weird War Tales 59. Well worth reading as well as appreciating the art. Right, next up, and we're going to talk about another writer now. Two writers in a row. Usually it's all about the art for me, but I'm afraid there's some great writing going on in Weird War Tales. Why am I showing you this one? This one is issue 70, and it is one of the first stories by a great writer, very prolific across the years, written for Spider-Man. Also, is what hasn't he written? This is a very early story by J.M. DeMatteis called Blood Boat. The art by Dick Ayres. So there you go. Very early J.M. DeMatteis. J.M. DeMatteis does become a main writer on Weird War Tales. One of his first assignments, I believe. And does some great stuff. In fact, later on, when we get to part 2, you'll find J.M. DeMatteis introducing us to the creature Commandos. Right, and finally we have this. This is another George Evans cover. I don't think it's as good as the one I showed you earlier, but there's something extra special about this one. Let me put it close up. It's got this, can you see this orange sticker it's got on it? That orange sticker says Dark They Were and Golden Eyed. Dark They Were and Golden Eyed was the first specialist comic shop in the UK. It was in central London. It is long gone. It was the first comic shop I ever used to go to when I was very young. So I used to buy comics in a market stall up in Yorkshire and take them down to London, and I went to Dark They Were and Golden Eyed, so I bought them for a few pennies and sold them for a few shillings. So there you go. This, if you ever get a comic with a Dark They Were and Golden Eyed sticker on it, don't take it off. It might be worth more than the comic. Well, to me, anyway. Right. Now, the last one in the series, the last one I'm going to show you in this particular half, where I'm talking about Weird War Tales, it's number 75. Nothing remarkable about it. What I like about it, it just sort of represents the Weird War Tales. You get a great cover by Joe Kubert, which is normal. He does over 50% of the covers, I think. And then inside, of course, we get the curator. I hadn't mentioned the curator of the comic yet. Our curator here is indeed Death himself. So, you know, Witching Hour, we get the 3 witches. In the House of Mystery, we get Cain. In the House of Secrets, we get Abel. In Ghost Castle, we get Lucian, the librarian. But here, in Weird War Tales, it's Death. And here we get a great one of Death sitting on top of a tank. I am Death, and only my advance is truly inexorable. Over the millennia, nothing has ever stood in my way. Now then, how many modern comics would use the word inexorable? Not many. I've got a feeling that the vocabulary of the average reader of Weird War Tales was considerably greater than that of today's comic reader. Maybe I'm being a bit rude, but inexorable. Right, and here you go. You get the first story here, and you know, we've got some great people. We've got Mike Sekowsky, one of the great sort of journeyman of DC, doing the artwork on the first story. Let's have a look, see who's doing the artwork on the second story. You usually get 2 or 3 stories depending on Fire of the Gods, Paul Kupperberg writer, Don Heck, another DC journeyman artist, Don Heck, doing the artwork in the second story. Do we get a third story? We've got Wonder Woman advertising Twinkies. I don't think we do get a third story. I think this is a 2-story issue. Oh no, we do. Third story, Ghost Patrol, Dan Adkins and George Rupert doing the art. So I just thought I'd show that. That's the last one I'm going to show you in this little section. If like me you are a Bronze Age horror fan, then I hope you have appreciated this great little run through of some of my favourite issues from the first sort of half of Weird War Tales. Anyway, that is your lot. See ya again soon.